Focus now to UK politics and the Business Secretary, Kemi Badenoch, yesterday accusing the Post Office chairman that she sacked of seeking revenge after he claimed that he'd been asked to delay compensation to postmasters. The Horizon nightmare, he says, I was told not to pay because that would help the government ahead of the election.
Several serious allegations were made against the government, my department and its officials by Mr Staunton, the former chair of the Post Office, over the weekend. These allegations are completely false. It is so disappointing that he's chosen to spread a series of falsehoods, provide made-up anecdotes to journalists and leak discussions held in confidence. All of this merely confirms in my mind that I made the correct decision in dismissing him. Mr Staunton claimed that when he was first appointed as chair of the Post Office, he was told by a senior civil servant to stall on paying compensation. There is no evidence whatsoever that this is true.
talkTV's political correspondent Alicia Fitzgerald is back with us, and we're also joined by the former Conservative advisor Ed Boyd. Good morning to you both. Ed, what did you make of that performance by the Business Secretary yesterday? Because it was deeply scathing. We've got totally now contradictory version of events to what we'd heard previously, and she seemed unrelenting, uncompromising.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't in any of those conversations, but if you sort of step back, why would it benefit the Tories to delay a payment, given it doesn't affect how the financials come across from the Treasury and the OBR anyway? It seems like a strange one. And if you are a business secretary going into the House of Commons, where you've got a lot of scrutiny, if you lie before the House of Commons, you have to come back and apologise.
And you want to be leader. Why would you do that?
For it. Why would you want to be leader?
No, I say, and if you have ambitions to be leader, why would you be tying yourself up in knots? I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, well, look, I honestly think this is more about integrity in the role. And she's saying, look, the things that he's gone to the Sunday Times and said, I haven't said, or this hasn't happened in the way that he is saying.
She said there's no evidence.
No, that's right. Let's talk about integrity. You were an advisor to David Cameron. It came out yesterday the Cameron government knew the Post Office ditched the Horizon investigation. Now, you just said you weren't there for that. Were you there for this?
No, I was working on welfare reform at the time.
So you weren't aware of that
at all, no.
But what would your answer to that be? The Cameron... I mean, I personally think, and this isn't against David Cameron, I think there are politicians all over this country. Pat McFadden, who's heading up Labour's election campaign, was Post Office Minister. Sir Ed Davey was Post Office Minister. That's a Liberal Democrat and a Labour. I think this goes back many, many years, and I think there's a lot of politicians whose mucky fingers are all over this, don't you?
So I wouldn't put all of it in the politician's bag. I would say you've got a IT system that people knew wasn't working, and yet they carried on anyway. You had court cases going on where information showing that it was leading to incorrect information, which leading to prosecutions. That information wasn't passed on. I'd say there has been failings throughout the system, and it's led to hundreds of people being prosecuted, some committing suicide. And the fact that we are talking about, did he say this, did she say that in meeting, is, separate from the main point, which is you've got hundreds of people who still haven't got justice. So the more swiftly that happens, surely that's the key thing in this.
Alicia, this is sort of out of the Kemi Badenoch playbook. She's really uncompromising. When she feels like she's got something to say, we hear about it pretty fast.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is definitely not an out-of-character statement for Kemi Badenoch. It is a slightly out-of-character statement, though, just for the House of Commons, given the context of the situation. It was very, very strongly worded.
Strident.
Searing.
There you go.
Strident,
scathing, whatever word you want to use.
Stupendous.
That was up for debate. But nonetheless, it was a very, very strongly worded statement. I mean, she definitely left no stone unturned in terms of what...
She did it because she wants to be the leader, to tell them that she's got, what it takes.
I mean, it's hard to say. It's, as you were saying, it would be a strange topic and a strange issue to kind of bank on in order to launch a leadership campaign. I mean, this is something that pretty unanimously everyone agrees is a one-sided debate, right?
That's my point. Why would she? I mean, if you look at somebody was telling us earlier, I can't remember the name, Matthew Staunton, I think, that if you look at the homepage of the Tory party in terms of the membership she's massively, massively important.
She is.
My question to you both would be, why would you go into the House of Commons when you're riding on the crest of a wave, when your boss, the Prime Minister, is looking down the barrel of a massive defeat, you look like you could replace him. Why would you put yourself out there and lie when you don't need to? And Henry Staunton is saying that she's lying and she's saying he's lying, but why would you put all that political capital on the line, Alicia? I don't get that.
Well, this is it. And I mean, this is why we've all got to research in the coming days and weeks and look at the evidence that does come forward and actually work out what's been said here. Because at the moment, we've just simply got two people saying that the other person is lying. And until there is concrete evidence, maybe until someone else comes forward who was part of these conversations, some actual evidence gets put on the table, it's going to be really hard to work out who's lying and what the motive was on either side to actually do this.
News this morning about our council tax, so we can move on to that briefly. Alicia, council tax is going to rise by £100 a year for households after 95% of local authorities said, OK, we'll hike it by the maximum amount. This is going to hurt.
5%,
and it goes without saying, be obviously deeply, deeply unpopular.
So it's another massive kick in the teeth for the public and another increased, elevated bill that lots of people are going to really, really struggle to pay. So the maximum amount a council can increase their council tax without calling a referendum within the area is 4.99% each year. So 95% of councils have apparently said that they want to do this in the next year. So that's going to be a really, really hefty addition to a bill. The average Band D property paying £103 more with their council tax.
Ed, again, I've sat here long enough to know that a lot of people watching and listening to this will say one thing about the council tax thing. Why would you trust local councils with even a penny of your money when half of them are either going bankrupt or are in fact bankrupt? To me, the bigger issue is devolve the power from Westminster and give these councils complete carte blanche. And I haven't got an open chequebook to write you when you mess it up. You're on your own, Birmingham, and you're on your own, Manchester. That's what I'd be doing, because they mess up, people, the taxpayer, pay, and then they come back to central government and the taxpayer pays again, right?
Yeah. So my experience with councils is it's a mixed bag. Some are fantastic with the way that they use money and deliver services. Wandsworth has often been one that's held up for that. Birmingham was in trouble before it had influxes of money and is in its current scenarios where it's on the verge of bankruptcy. On your idea, I love it in theory. In practice, if you give loads of power down to the local level, at the moment, they've been so gutted of responsibilities for decades that you often don't have the talent at that local level to take on that responsibility and to hold it well. You need to make sure there's the best people leading those councils, there's the best training, and they're set up for those extra responsibilities. And honestly, that takes decades. That's the difficulty.
Very interesting point. Thank you, gang. Really interesting.
Thank you so much. Alicia, thank you as well.
Thank you, Ed.